Hey y'all, Andrew Reed, Mossy Creek Mushrooms. And with me today is my ever lovely wife, Samantha Reed.
Hey guys.
And I am going to bring up the chat on my phone, which I have forgotten to do. So I am very professional today. So professional. Well, Samantha, what are we talking about today? Oh gosh. Samantha Reed. That's going to go bad here in a second. What are we talking about today? Do you remember? She's asked me twice. That's what I'm asking.
I have asked you twice. It's a pretty heady, hefty, and heavy subject today, as far as like kind of what's going on in the world and sort of maybe some concerns that we're all sort of having and a few fears and talking about kind of the war that's going on and potential stuff and
in the past pandemic and then current inflation, which I know most people are probably noticing substrate prices go up,
yep.
bag prices and everything else. So kind of wanted to just have a moment to talk about, how do you pivot in these uncertain times? So, and I don't really know. I kind of figure this would be more of a discussion, like a Q&A session mixed with my own theories and whatnot. I will start this off by saying that none of what I say is advice. These are things that I do or things that I think that I would do in certain circumstances. I am not a financial advisor. I did, however, survive. Samantha and I, our business survived the pandemic with zero government help or loans or PPP anything. We just suffered.
Yeah, we didn't take the $600 a week that most people got that, worked part-time jobs and then got paid full-time wages. We didn't get any of that. We chose that, we would make smart business choices, and that's what we went with.
Absolutely.
Not saying that people who did take advantage of that
or any less.
Who needed it.
Right.
That was wrong.
No, if you needed it, you should have taken it.
Yeah.
But
if you didn't, you shouldn't have. That's a sore spot with me.
I mean, I'm of the mind, rob the system while you can, right? But now...
Someone said pivot back to popcorn.
Pivot back to popcorn.
I don't know.
So he must have run like a popcorn stand or something,
No.
or maybe he was... Or maybe he means popcorn spawn, or...
Oh, okay,
I don't know.
Maybe pivot back in your chair and then grab a thing of popcorn and just
there you go. Pivot to popcorn. Oh, to watch the ruination. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm down with that too. I've got a little bit of anarchist in me. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, goodness.
Those who suffer more make it more, in my opinion. I agree, Paul. That is my... Like, we have a saying, and it makes no sense whatsoever, so please forgive me. It's just a nonsensical statement, but it's bite a bullet now so you don't have to bite 3 later, right? Bite that 1 bullet now while the guy's stitching you up and sanitizing your wound with the hot metal blade so that you don't have to have your arm cut off, and go through all that pain and misery. I said popcorn spawn, but good theories. Man, we're getting a full house pretty quick. I'm liking that these regular podcasts seem to be building momentum because we've only been on for like less than 5 minutes and already 20-something people are in. So that's pretty cool. Real quick before we get into some more of the heavy topics is the go with the flow key. I'll also announce this in the upcoming video that I've got. This is a syringe key. You know what I did, Samantha?
What?
I grabbed a syringe to show, but not a syringe cap. Do we have a syringe cap over there? Yep. Oh, those are syringe caps. Very good. So this is just a little key. It's on the very top. There's a little tear in the back. There you go. You're good. So I'm sure you guys are familiar. We don't normally use black caps. We use the clear. My favorite are the fluorescent yellow. But sometimes when they're on there real nice and good and they've built up pressure, they're really hard to take off with your hands. Like, they kind of hurt. I've seen people take them off with their teeth. It's a bad idea if you want to keep that sterile. And I know, so we actually got the inspiration from Lenny Rockwell at Mycelium Emporium. I know he's got somebody. Oh my goodness. That light is like burning me up today. We're going to get some better air conditioning here in the studio.
sweaty.
Yeah, I'm sweaty. Downright warm and clammy.
You.
But this key, it was inspired by the twist-off keys that you've got at Mycelium Emporium. But we thought that we liked the flat design better, circular. It's a little easier to grab, easier on the wrist, I feel like.
And you have a total rotation on your wrist.
Total rotation, yeah.
Instead of...
And so, yeah, and then it just, your syringe cap just goes in like that. You twist it off, lay it on the table, which I can't show you, but I'll show you in the video. You just press down. Oh no, it sank into the wood. I tore up my own table. But you press it down, snap it, and then you've got your syringe here. So, now, what?
I think it's very fitting to kind of going along with, what we're sort of wanting to talk about, because it's been on our mind a lot over the past few days and really past few weeks, to be honest. That kind of go with the flow, grow with the flow sort of thing.
Well, that's definitely part of it for me. That's been part of my lifelong education for a while. You guys can't see it, but that same Triskel pattern Samantha had drawn up for the laser cutter. I have that same design tattooed on my right shoulder. And that was done by my favorite tattoo artist in the world, Justin Norton. Shout out to him. He's out in Boone, North Carolina. But he's also the one that did all the octopus knot work that goes all the way down my leg, and the octopus is like tearing up a Viking ship, and you got Thor coming down smacking the octopus with a hammer. I can't show you that because it comes all the way up my leg, and that would be considered a...
I mean, you could.
I mean, maybe on OnlyFans.
Oh my goodness. Only grands.
Only grands? I like that. But the whole thing is, this is now live on the website. You can now purchase these. Anyone who orders a bulk kit gets a different design than the flow key, as Samantha has put it. But this is just a little twist-off tool. You can buy them if you want them. They're easy to sanitize with alcohol. The acrylic will eventually wear out, but so anything else? What? Patreon content?
Floki, I see what you did.
Yep. I didn't know if anybody caught that. Yeah. I like that a lot. So, old Boone, where we Southern boys used to get the good from. Yeah, no kidding, man. Well, Boone's kind of like gone all hippified now. But that's okay, because hippified's got its own perks as well. Sometimes. But yes, I agree. So the whole idea, I have my old Navy tat there, which, I mean, it was Department of Navy, not really Navy, Marine Corps, but Hold Fast, which I actually got after I got out. Which has a lot to do, like that was after the first year we ran the business.
You were really sneaky and mean with that too.
I was really sneaky and mean with that. So you can't see it probably very easily from there, but it's not like the best quality. It's almost like a sketch, and there's a reason for that. I handed that idea to Samantha, and I said, "Hey, will you just sketch this out, and we'll take it to a tattoo artist and have them, refine it and then put it on." And she sketched it out, and I went to the tattoo artist and said, "I want this. This is a sketch from my wife. I want it done exactly the way she did it," which she hates because
and you only gave me like 5 minutes.
I gave her like 5 minutes, but it's because I wanted her sketch. I didn't want her perfectionized version. The whole point of that tattoo was I had been in like business for a year or two. We had finally started making money a little bit, and the whole time, this whole idea from the Navy days had come back to me, which is just, you're on the ship. What do you do when you're a person on the ship? Excuse me, especially back in the old days. You rig your ship up as best you can, then you go into the storm and you just hold fast. You hold on and hope that you did all that work and preparation you did paid off. So I feel like it kind of goes along with today's subject as well. That, and then of course this tattoo is the go with the flow. And the whole go with the flow is get into the current, let the current carry you, stop fighting everything. Move into where life, you have the biggest returns for the least amount of effort. And start thinking, like a barbarian, which I'm doing a video on barbarian technology versus civilized technology versus boat culture technology, which comes from, by the way, if you want to go read this stuff in advance, Ribbon Farm. .com, Return to the Barbarian, is the first article in that. And he definitely talks about what's called the Neo-Veblen Fork, which is, nomads and civilized sedentary peoples, like, basically are two different types of civilization, or two different types of, civilization is the only way I can put it, even though that's not the way he puts it. And they're two lifestyle choices that are more of a fork that run parallel, rather than what we think of as hunter-gatherers evolved into pastoral nomads, then evolved into sedentary civilized. And then you've got boat cultures, which are hybrid cultures between the two that go into this whole thing. And they all have sets of technology, ways of thinking, etc., that really denote the way they live. And he talks, mainly Mongolians are about the best example of pastoral nomadicism even to this day, because even though they do have cities, it's kind of odd how Mongolians just like move houses all the time and do everything else. So,
but all of this stuff is, these are things that we have read, that we have kind of internalized, and we live by these kind of principles and these stories, and they're very inspirational in a lot of ways. And specifically, whenever you're going through tough times or hard times, you have something to kind of refer to that, you relate to. It's just like children's stories, but now they're they're stories for adults.
Yep.
That really hearken and they really align to your principles, and I don't know, I just really like them. Andrew and I both have really fallen in love with them.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to share them with you guys.
Absolutely. Also, go read Ribbon Farm's OODA Loop. It's a great, that changed my way of thinking for the better. It definitely has some limitations, the OODA Loop, but oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Anyways, Savior B. Brian, Brian,
Oh yeah,
and Mrs. B, said that Andrew is romantic. It's true, Brian.
He is. It's very true. In fact, when we first started dating, he had this 1995 Honda Civic.
Odyssey. Or no, it's a Civic. I'm sorry,
Civic.
The Odyssey.
It was white, and it had black door handles.
Right.
I remember. And we went on a date to the movie theater, and we came back to he dropped me off at my parents' house, and he was on time because we had a curfew. And it had dashboard lights, and he was playing around with the lights. He was like, normal, romantic.
And the romantic, dim it down. I don't think that's the kind of romantic he was meaning. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but, that's one of the Mossback original stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, so we are 15 minutes in, so we'll actually get in on the subject of which, I claimed we were going to talk about. So, pandemic, that's over with now, but we can kind of discuss how we saw things go down. And it definitely hurt. I'm not going to lie that, we survived, but when I said that we survived by suffering, we definitely suffered. And basically it came down to we signed the keys for the warehouse, and then what was it, 2 weeks later? Or maybe it was like 2 days later, I can't remember.
It was just a few days later.
It was a few days then. Everything in Knoxville shut down, all of our restaurants, and we were like, holy shit, how do we... So we put up a little market tent out front, sold some mushrooms there that didn't really amount to much, but really we just if it wasn't for my online income, I might have had to have taken loans. But interestingly enough, I had actually told Samantha, Charles, and Ben, which represent the board of Mossy Creek Mushrooms, the four of us, that I just had a feeling, which I've always got a feeling. I'm a doomsday guy. Everything's always about to end in doom, which is bullshit. But it's, for some reason, that's where my head always goes. And so I told him, I was like, I don't know if it's going to be economic. I don't know if there's going to be a war or what. But I definitely did not expect a pandemic. But I was like, let's get an online income going, which is part of what the YouTube channel was for, but it's also why we started a website and really started on having a store and trying to produce something that we could ship quickly, which was liquid culture. And then we started expanding into other stuff, which we got a bunch of merch going up. We had some merch go on the website last night, so we got T-shirts in stock, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mug.
It's a coffee mug.
Even have a coffee mug.
For the mushroom cast. So.
Absolutely. So we at least had that stuff built up, all because of my own paranoia. with the online income came benefits there that are much harder for someone who's just running a mushroom farm to do. Now, thinking on the way things are now, I would not have leapt to restaurants as quickly as I did. I would have stayed in farmers markets more, because farmers markets had mailing lists, and they pivoted, and it was a whole stretch of infrastructure that I didn't have anymore that I would have pivoted into, which was end of user sale. Because let's say if I sell a pound of mushrooms for $8 a pound to a restaurant, well, that's certainly good profit. But if I can sell 1 pound of mushrooms for $20, I only have to sell 4 pounds to end users than what I do to restaurants. Because 4 pounds would be all I'd have to sell to make up for the difference of what I sell at restaurants. So we have an $80 case, which is roughly 10 pounds. If I sold 4 pounds, I'd actually make more money. Way more money, because the profit margin would be higher. And that means that I could have sold 40% of my crop and still made as much money as what I was making before. And I could have thrown the other 60% away and still been making the same amount of money. So I wish that I had kept that infrastructure. And now we let people come in and buy, just straight here at the shop. We had someone come in and buy today. And it doesn't amount to a whole lot. We have 2.5 pounds here, 5 pounds here. Someone comes and buys a pound every Friday. We've got like a stream of customers. I still want more. Samantha's going to eventually work on the shop. We're focusing on online entirely right now first. Mainly because our patrons are paying us to focus on online stuff and things that benefit them. And since we already have that going, we'll go further into that later. As we get employees that we can send to farmers markets, we may even jump back into that. So that's kind of my first thing, is that I had online stuff to save me, but other people had farmers markets and individual sales. And I think that I would have pivoted more into that had I not had the online sales, like if I was just a mushroom farmer. Do you have any thoughts on that, Smith?
Oh, we also have multiple mushroom farms in our area, and at that time, the farmers markets were kind of cutting down on a lot of their hours and openings, and there were a lot of restrictions being put in place. People were kind of they were trying to do their due diligence and try to do the right thing, and kind of stay home and not, get sick and not pass it on to others. And for me, it was more the fact that, we're all in the same boat. Pivoting to that online aspect was, nice, because you could spread information very rapidly, teach, other people very rapidly. They could at least, at the very least grow, for themselves, for their families.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that I felt was a really good pivot to make.
So, yeah, if you don't mind me jumping in real quick.
Absolutely.
That's actually a pivot that we're making right now. A lot of the videos that I've got coming up, I'm doing a split tree video now. We're doing, we've still been doing all the normal stuff that we've been doing for people who want to go from hobby to commercial, which has kind of always been my niche. But I'm going to start doing a lot more at-home videos. Here's how you grow when you have nothing. Here's how you grow without a HEPA filter. Here's how you grow, like, oh my goodness, you've got liquid culture and no grain, and grain is outrageous. Go outside, break up some sticks, soak them, strain them, throw them in a jar, pressure cook them, because you will need a pressure cooker, unfortunately. There's just no good way around that if you want sterile stuff. You can go even lower tech, but at that point the reliability is why try. But get your pressure cooker, and then you inject your liquid culture on those little bits of wood sticks that are all, basically you have a primitive version of plug spawn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going. So I just, when you said that, it made me think that we too we're going to be splitting to how getting those people who want to grow at home. We want to target them and basically offer information and infrastructure for people who want to grow for just their families and save some money and be able to eat well.
I mean, that's how we started.
Right. That's exactly how we started.
Andrew and I got married in 2005. We went to Johnson University, and at that time, like, tuition spiked. What was it, 300-400%? Just, it was absurd.
Right.
And we quickly found ourselves not being able to find a job no matter where we turned in 2008, and it was just a huge struggle. And at that time, I don't think it was really even on our minds to diversify our income. It was really just kind of a grab and go, whatever you could get.
Right.
I mean, we worked wherever we could, however we could. And there was this sort of running joke of, you guys are waiting for upper management, kind of thing. But like, you would apply and apply and apply, and it wouldn't be weeks later you would be laid off.
Well, and nobody really thought about what I was doing at home was, besides growing the mushrooms a little bit, we had food stamps at the time, which always bothered me because I'm always kind of an anti-food stamps kind of guy. But I'm glad there was a social safety net there. So I've gotten a little less libertarian, a little more, I guess, I don't know. Like, I understand the system a little bit, and I appreciate some of the softness that the system allows for. But because the big thing for us was just that, at least in Tennessee, I assume across the country, food stamps will allow you to buy seed and food plants with your food stamps. Like, you can just go to the store and spend your EBT card on food production. And so through the summertime, I was raising ducks and chickens. We had tons of tomatoes and peppers and squash and all kinds of stuff coming out of the garden. So basically, through the summertime, all we had to do to eat was go outside. We ate a lot of eggs, of course. And all that we spent our EBT on was we would go to the store, buy milk, meat, cheese, egg, not eggs.
Staples we couldn't produce ourselves.
Onions, yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
So.
And it really heckled me because I was young and I wanted to work, and just to have food stamps seemed like such a derogatory thing. It felt like a failure, to have to go apply for that. It was really hard.
It was hard, yeah. It was really, really difficult.
Can you change that?
I'm changed. I'm not on you now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
It's okay. That was a hard time and I really kind of look at that time more as being what really set, like, that time period was why we didn't take the government money. Like, that set in stone for us that we wanted to be as resilient as possible. We wanted to be as self-sufficient as possible. And while...
Anti-Fragile.
Anti-Fragile, yeah, which is a great book, by the way. Read Anti-Fragile. It's an amazing, amazing book. It has certain weaknesses in it, but it is as good as it gets. So, one of the ideas behind that was... behind that time period was that we learned to suffer through and really put off for what we wanted. And, we didn't have a problem spending money. We were willing to spend money when it came down to, like, we're going to buy this pair of shoes, and we're going to buy a nice pair of shoes because we know it's going to last a lot longer.
An investment is an investment.
Right. Like, an investment is an investment. And so I'm not self-sufficient now, and I don't want to be self-sufficient now. I actually like relying on the labor of others. But there are a lot of people who want to be self-sufficient.
You can't do everything yourself. Like,
right.
It's just impossible.
Yeah.
You have to have that camaraderie and that team.
Absolutely. And it'd be hard to run a business. You're fine, man. It's hard to run a sizable business and do it all yourself. But there is something romantic to me about being surrounded by things I made and things that I grew to eat for myself. We actually have a running joke here that we can't afford to eat what we farm. We're farmers. We sell to the nice restaurants and eat McDonald's. That kind of thing. It's not really quite like that. Like, Samantha made a home cooked meal for lunch today and everything else. Like, it's one of those. Which, by the way, that was actually one of the reasons why we grew mushrooms, was because we were cooking at home so much. And it was like, I'm hearing myself like an echo.
You're playing back.
Yeah, I don't. Somebody's listening to me. I guess she listened. Oh, okay. Hi, Cheryl. So it was must have been when the door was open. But what was I saying? The ADHD kicked in after that. Do you remember?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, new subject. The biggest thing for me, on the self-sufficiency thing is that I think it's a great idea and romantic, but
Cooking for ourselves. What I cook for lunch.
Oh, cooking for yourself. Okay, yes, there we go. Okay, cooking for yourself. What she cooked for lunch. Mushrooms. We started that
Squirrel.
because we were looking at like what were other things that we could grow, because we had our garden, our ducks, our chickens, and our everything else. What else could we grow? Mushrooms are vitamin and mineral powerhouses with plenty of amino acids, essential and non-essential both. And it was like, okay, now they're not great for calories, but you can literally take waste material, use your mushrooms to recycle that into better soil for the garden, and then get a nice vitamin and mineral punch in the gut at the same time. And not to mention that mushrooms are expensive. So when we were living at the poorest edges that we lived at and eating mushrooms every day, like, we thought we were living high on the hog. We thought we were rich.
Well, at that time too, there was another, meat spike. The cost of meat.
Price of meat, yeah, back
just
then.
like there kind of is, there is now.
Mhm.
And that was something that we could grow. We did a bunch of wine cap beds, and other people were very interested in. So we would literally take a shovel out to the garden and put it in a bag, and then pass it on so they could plant. It was almost like the starter that you make that you hand on to your friend, that then you hand on to your friend, and you just keep that gift going. But with a shovel of mycelium.
Cheryl said hello from the MCM lab.
Yeah, she's doing good work in there. So
I'm liking seeing all the comments we're getting on a lot of the stuff. Now, I if you don't mind, I do want to point out one real quick. Did you finish your thought there?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that MS? I don't actually. Beteth? I'm just gonna call you MS. Did say oil sold for the yuan digital out of China removes the petrodollar as linchpin dollar support. Gas will be $10 end of summer. All food mega inflation. Shrooms are a godsend. And before that, he had said, to be frank, the worst just happened. Eco and Saudis are going to sell oil for Chinese yuan, yen, whatever. Petrodollar, yen's Japanese. It's yuan. Petrodollar going away and America is doomed. Okay, I'm not going to go America is doomed. And I definitely don't, when I said I liked your comment, I don't like that part. It's not doomed, but I will say that our current system as is probably is. Because a lot of people don't know this, all oil is mandated to be traded in American dollars. That's why it's called the petrodollar. That is now, because of this whole Russian thing, is now being taken away. They are now Iran, China, and Russia are now talking about trading for oil in the yuan, and it's definitely gonna put a pinch on the dollar. Here's one of the things to think about: inflation is already at where it's at now. One of the biggest export that America has had is these petrodollars. So we could print money and send it to third world, second world countries, and they would trade using our dollars. Now, if they stop trading in our dollars, the dollars come back to the United States, right? Because they'll use the dollar to work with us and only buy things that they need from America. That dollar won't go back necessarily. So expect inflation to get a little bit worse, which is actually a really good thing if you have the space. Pack as much maitake, chestnut. Like right now is about the time, like what we did at the beginning. You remember what we did at the beginning of the pandemic?
Yeah. We shifted to long-term strains.
Long-term strains. Packed as much shiitake, maitake, chestnuts, anything that was 6 weeks or longer, because we didn't know how long it would be. Well, the cool news is that if you take today's dollars and you plant maitake in today's dollars and then let it grow for a long time, that maitake doesn't lose value. The maitake doesn't lose value because maitake is going to be worth the same amount of Coca-Colas as it's always been worth. The question is, what is its strength in relation to the dollar? Inflation means that the prices go up because the value of the dollar goes down. Maitake doesn't go down. So if you've got the room and you can start planting long growing species, start using that as a piggy bank. Because you can always use that to sell later at much higher prices. That is what I'm pivoting into. We're starting to do a lot more specialties, and of course, like I said, our videos are going a lot more to self-sufficiency videos because people are going to want to pinch pennies, and they're going to want good food while they pinch pennies. In fact, I'm working on a video right now where we're trying to grow oyster mushrooms off of coffee grounds because we drink a lot of coffee at the shop. And so it's like, okay, well, what if we just grow mushrooms off the coffee grounds? And so I'm working on a video on how we did that, and then we're going to cook them up at the shop, and it's going to be a cool video, but we're not there yet.
And I think the whole point of this conversation really is, not leaning into fear. It's not, because a lot of us, I think, are getting kind of amped up a little bit. We're getting sort of afraid. And to kind of, it's the wolf you feed, right? Feed the one that is going to get you there, that is going to have you persevere and be ingenuitive and make it anyway. You just have to keep going, and you have to shift, and you have to just make sure that you're thinking straight.
Oh, you always know where to hit me. Bye, Maiko. Swear. Oh my goodness. You want to see what strain it is too? Look at this. Look at what strain he put in mine. He put dead man's fingers in he put dead man's fingers in mine. I'm sorry to interrupt you. That just happened.
Oh goodness.
I swear, one day that's not going to go so well for me. I really like how much the people like Maiko Myers, too.
We're going to have to... And Tristan always comes in with these... Oh, sorry.
No, it's Tristan. Everybody knows it's Tristan.
Tristan and Maiko Myers have this amazing, ability to wear these shirts that are super cool and edgy. And we need to make some Maiko Myers themed shirts to put out there. But...
Absolutely.
Anyway.
So you were saying?
Well, just to kind of all band together and be positive.
Thank you.
Ooh. Thank you, Cheryl.
Here, you hold that up to your camera. So, real quick, before you do, guys, while you're doing it, guys, this is a wild dead man's fingers that we found. Oh, you're going to have to...
It's not wanting to focus, is it?
Well, just show them from a distance, closer to your face, because I've got the camera focused on your face. But
well, it's creepy.
you guys, yeah, right there. That's great.
And very, very alien-esque.
So that is our new strain of dead man's fingers, and yeah, but there you go. Put the light behind it. There you go. I don't know if you guys can see those fingers. It is fruiting both under the surface of the liquid and above it, and the fingers on it are like of an inch long off just liquid culture. That is so cool. And that's a wild strain found by Ben Erickson and Stephanie Erickson, his wife, and which Ben's my business partner, and Samantha's my business partner. And he found that in the woods, and we cloned it, and that is what it turned into. It is incredible. So it's what's in our spalting pack now. When people buy Dead Man's Fingers, that is our strain of Dead Man's Fingers. We don't have, no one else has the same strain unless they've bought it from us. So
it is wicked looking.
it is. It looks like, oh my gosh. Yeah, what did you do? That hurt my ears.
Sorry.
I've got you like looking at it on camera.
Oh.
We'll go back to me. I think Samantha forgot she was telling a story.
I was kind of finished with it, you know. I feel like I got my point across.
Absolutely. So someone actually, Nathan Prittis said, Master's Mix is already borderline viable outside of soy growing states. locally sourced substrates may be the only option for some. I saw that Dr. Jerkface was actually in the chat. Dr. Jerkface is one of the few people that I've come across who readily trains strains for substrates. He has taken mushrooms that are not wood lovers and turned them into wood-tolerant eating species and other things. It's in most of the books. Most people have at least a theoretical understanding of how to train strains. But I think this is going to be so important, and I think you're right, because people are going to take locally sourced ingredients if they can't get it. Right now, Mushroom Media Online is still strong, and he's still shipping stuff to us regularly. Excuse me. And I'm going to continue with that as long as I can afford it. But there are going to be price increases. And I would say there's going to be price increases locally as well. It's just the way it goes. But for people who have a hard time, like we don't know what imports are going to look like in a year or exports, whatever your substrate is, it would be really good if you had trained strains for that substrate. And it's actually really easy to do. So we'll do a video on how to train strains. And this is what I mean by where I've split into, like I've done a split in our videos, because that will definitely be useful for commercial growers to have, and it'd be a good way to save money. Is like, if you're growing off beet pulp, which I know Save Your Bee in the chat has been growing off beet pulp with success, large amounts of success, because he had a hard time getting soy. That beet pulp grow could be probably improved by training that strain to want beet pulp as its primary food source. And that really comes down to, you can make agar that is legitimately just what's called water agar, except that you can cook it with pellets in it. So you can take beet pulp pellets and wood pellets or straw pellets and put no other nutrition in there in the agar. And as you cook it, it makes a broth and puts some of the texture in there as well. You pour that out in a dish. You grow the strain from one side to the other. You select for it on the other side, and then you go into it. And that's going to be a really good way to train strains for locally sourced environment, or for locally sourced substrates.
On Toby Lane, he put on here another reason to forego restaurants. If everything tanks and, we're pinching pennies, high-end restaurants are out, local sales and direct sales, capture customer info at sales kind of thing. Yeah, I think you might be surprised what restaurants might pivot to, because during the pandemic, a lot of our restaurants went to, the curbside pickup, but they also went, I know some of them went to almost providing groceries, essentially, where they were taking raw goods from farmers, and then they were, making noodles out of them and sausage out of it, and whatever else that they could think to do, kind of their specialty of what they trained with, right? The chefs just doing what chefs do best, and that's taking those raw ingredients and turning them into something amazing for the consumer.
Well, and that's a good point, because when you have something like a stressor, like a pandemic or inflation or a war or anything else, people don't stop. People have skills, and people don't just, I'm in the middle of a pandemic, let me learn a new skill. Well, maybe during the pandemic they did, because they were getting paid to stay home. But, in inflation, like, what are you going to do? Are you really going to just completely learn a new skill set? That might be a viable way out, but it's going to be hard to make it in the meantime. What most people do is they lean ever heavier and heavier on their skills they already have, right? And they reduce complexity. And so these chefs that Samantha's talking about, what we noticed during the pandemic was a lot of corporations, like large corporations, had a much harder time pivoting and providing stable meals. Like, McDonald's here was like changing, like, we're out of this, we're out of this, we're out of this. But the high-end restaurants started making a little bit more low-cost food, everyday food, and like getting it out the door, trimming the complexity down, no in-dining seating or any, in-house seating or anything else. It's just pumping out meals, and they actually bought more mushrooms after the first initial 2 weeks. And I think that you're going to see that these chefs can actually pivot. Like, so the high-end restaurants, they may not stay high-end forever, and they may want you to drop your prices a little bit, or they may want you to stay behind on the inflation, or...
we saw places like the Copper Cellar and the Walnut Kitchen and, Michi take meals that they would cook in house, and you would pay for that kind of wine and dine, right, to go in. You would pay for that experience. They would take those same meals and then drop the cost a little bit because you were taking it home and you were cooking it and you were eating it in house.
Right. Reducing wait staff and
it made
else.
it more, it made it very affordable, and then you were still able to have the same meals that you loved and kind of treated yourself with at certain points, and you were having them in house with your family. And that was something I thought was really, really cool. They didn't just give up. They didn't just, oh, woe is me, kind of thinking back to our high school psychology teacher. But it's just, we got to find a way no matter what.
Right, yeah. And you just pivot and experiment and try to remain flexible. And what we do is the whole go with the flow.
Yeah.
That's part of the design behind the syringe key that we've got on the website now, is that this helps remind me it's not just flow because of liquid culture, though I like that double meaning, but it literally means that, look at the simple creatures, right, that survive. These guys who get near the sea vents in the floor, or these filter feeders who hang out in the current. The cool thing about mushrooms are, if you're growing mushrooms, you're a death eater. You're eating substance that's already dead. And you know what the cool thing about that is? When disasters strike, there's plenty of dead laying around. So Samantha's actually working on a Death Eater series. Our house bird, because I decided we wanted a house bird, is the vulture. And it's funny because Jack was telling me in the Cherokee culture, they have stories about vulture, and it's not good. It's all about how lazy vulture is. And it's funny because I told Jack...
But he has a very special place because he does the work.
He's the one that
no
created
one
the
else
mountains.
would do.
And he does recycle materials that other people won't do. But the whole story is he basically flies a little bit and he got tired and he sat down and then he lifted back off again, and that made the mountains, and then he flew a little bit further and then made the Rocky Mountains in the same way, kind of thing, right? And so the whole idea is... Jack asked me why our house bird was the vulture, and I told him because the vulture does not reap what he sows. He reaps what death sows. He doesn't have to work for his food. He just lives his life and then finds his food. And that is the way I want to be. I don't want to have to work for a living.
Well, I'm kind of
This is going to bother Samantha.
It is going to bother me.
Yeah.
See, and I have a different take
Samantha's
on it.
got to reframe it to where the vulture works as hard as he can work, because Samantha loves...
No, just, there are circumstances in life and then in death, I guess. I don't know. I guess I want to kind of reframe it in a way that you have situations that happen, and, the vulture is very opportunistic, but it's typically not at the expense of something. It doesn't actively go out and kill it. It takes what is there, just like the mushrooms do, and at least most of them. Well, some of them. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But say what I'm trying to say.
Say it again, because I was actually reading a comment that I actually want to bring up here in a second, because I feel like you would be the best person to answer this, but go ahead.
You just take the waste streams and you turn them into
turn them into gold.
Usable, viable products that you can find nourishment and nutrients in.
The joke that I have made with this that she's saying is I have the crappest touch. Everything, it's like Midas, except everything I touch turns to bountiful crap.
Okay.
Creates fertility. That's the basis for fertility. So someone asked the question, Samantha, and I thought that you would be the perfect person to answer this, because I kind of Ben and I kind of came up with this, and then I yelled this at you forever. But Matthew Jacob the Fifth, congratulations on being the proud carrier of a name for so many generations. Could you elaborate on what you mean when you talk about a scarcity mindset? Or maybe you have already talked about that today. I just got here about 15 minutes ago. Thank you. I want to make sure we get into that, because the scarcity mindset is actually really core principle to our culture.
Well, it's very near and dear to my heart, because that's something I have struggled with for so long.
Samantha used to be really bad about thinking in a scarcity mindset. So what is a scarcity mindset?
Well, the scarcity mindset is whenever you are always preparing for things to be scarce. You're in this kind of mindset of fear, or there's not going to be enough. Oh crap! Well,
I got to take this deal right now because there's no more dollars in the world.
There will not be an opportunity that's going to be the same as this opportunity, and we must take it now. Instead of taking kind of the long view and not being as impulsive because you're afraid of something, or
right.
It's it's the kid that dog piles on the candy because there will never be another piece of candy ever again.
Right. Don't make short-sighted decisions.
Yeah.
Because you think that believe in yourself is the way I kind of look at it. There's the prosperity mindset, which is where you believe in yourself, and really the chaotic good of the world. I don't know, but believing that you're there's opportunity everywhere is the prosperity mindset, and so you're willing to pick and choose. You're not a garbage collector. You're not just trying to hold on to stuff. You're not making bad deals. It also means the sunk cost fallacy. Which Samantha and I've talked a lot about as well. Sunk cost fallacy is where you believe I paid this much on this car, and therefore I need to finish off paying off this car or else, right? Like, even if that car is now upside down in value, it actually is going to cost you more to continue to pay it off. But you're like, well, I've already paid so much into it. Here's a good example.
You can't go back.
You can't go back.
And then you put yourself in a box.
Right.
And you can't move forward either.
I've walked this far. I have worked as a mushroom farmer for 3 years. I've put 3 years of my time into it, and it's not working. So I'm going to put 5 more years into it because I've already put 3. Right? Like that would be a stupid reason to be a mushroom farmer. But a good reason to be a mushroom farmer is I believe that there is opportunity in this, therefore I'm going to be a mushroom farmer. There's always going to be opportunity in food because everyone eats. Therefore, I'm going to be a mushroom farmer. That would be more prosperity mindset in my mind.
Yeah. Well, and two, taking that and, I can be a mushroom farmer, and I can also be a microgreens farmer with the or a worm farmer on top of it. Or I can take, this and turn it into that. That's a waste product of that can be turned into this. It's all about seeing the opportunity and forevermore seeing that growth mindset and that opportunity and that prosperity mindset versus, well, I've already spent this much money. It's lost. I've wasted it. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm screwed now.
Right.
Now what do I do? And by this being something that I have struggled with, I've come from a very hardworking, blue-collar family, miners, and not to do my grandfathers an injustice for the sacrifices that they made, but they ended their lives early. And I could still have potentially my grandfathers if they had had a more positive frame of mind. If they both hadn't died of black lung from being in the mine,
Whereas you had other family members who, instead of going to the mine, said, you know what, I'm going to start a general store. And they lived to be quite old. Yeah. In fact, isn't one of them still alive? Is it Ruby? Ruth?
Yeah. No, she passed away.
Oh.
But that was my great aunt that I was named after, and she was she owned a general store, and she was also a postmaster in Kentucky.
And a preacher's wife, and a dog trainer.
Yep.
And
I mean, everything was an opportunity, and she gave a lot to the community.
And this was in Kentucky?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She gave a lot to the community.
And see, that's another part of the prosperity mindset. Like, a lot of people think, I got to hold on to everything I make. But part of being prosperity-minded is, let me give you the best example I can of this, if I may.
Absolutely.
The best example I can think of is my father saying, you just figured out how to grow mushrooms. Why are you teaching everyone else how to grow them too? Aren't you worried about competition?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not worried about it. I mean, the truth is I'm always a little worried about it. Everyone is. Everyone has those same fears. The point is that I don't want to pay attention to those. And I don't want to cloister myself in my high tower and then, laugh at everybody as they're trying to build out the mushroom world. I believe that there is enough opportunity out there that I'm going to share my hard-won knowledge with you guys as much as I can. And there's only going to be a few things that I keep cloistered up. Directions that I want to move specifically, I kind of keep behind the paywall. Like mushroom breeding is something that I will eventually go over one day. But only after I've gotten to the point that I want to get to it. But even then, I'm not going to be worried about, I'm still going to share it. Like it's still knowledge that I will eventually share. Because I'm not that worried about it. I think that there's tons of people growing liquid culture. There's tons of people growing my strains and selling it. I don't get bent out of shape out of it because you have to have that prosperity mindset. And it allows you to make good long-term decisions which build on themselves. So I also realized, Samantha, we got like 8 minutes until the show's kind of supposed to end. So we ought to do like through questions as quick as we can.
And that's what I was actually just looking at.
Okay. John Grady says, thoughts on training a warm weather strain for cooler temps or vice versa. John, I can tell you that really the best thing to do would just be put it like the same thing, make your agar like normal, place a wedge on one side of your plate, and then, if you're growing for cooler weather, put it in the refrigerator, let it grow across. By the time it gets across, you should be able to select from there. And that will hopefully have been the hyphae that have done the best through the cold weather, or through the cold that you put it through. Same thing as build an incubator, heat stress them. The ones that performed better through the heat stress, selecting out from there. And now you have, like, if you do that for multiple plates, like 3 or 4 plates, you've got a pretty good chance of having a trained strain. Could you use rolled cob instead of soy and substrate when it's unavailable? So Free Guy, that would be not as great because corn cobs don't have much nitrogen in them. You really want to find something that's had a high nitrogen content or a high protein content because nitrogen is a protein-bound molecule. Let's see. JB Foreman, I just purchased corn cob because of the freight on hard fuel pellets, I guess. Can you describe your experience and recommendations? You mentioned fermented. Oh, you're talking to JB Foreman. I'm sorry. I'm scaling to commercial grade with my op this year. Watching your vids for knowledge. Much love from Texas. Well, thank you very much, Synapse.
And John asked, when you were poor and raising chickens, ducks, how did you feed them? Store-bought grains seems expensive, and I'm curious how you did that.
Okay, so yeah.
I remember when we had chickens. One of the things that we do, we had a good little ribbon cut space of land. The kids and us, we would go into the woods and start kicking over logs, and the chickens would come behind us and eat all the little grub worms.
I was
and
just
stuff.
about to ask if you remember the logs.
Yeah,
and so we started placing logs on purpose.
Yep.
And you just go out there every day and kick them over.
Yep. And just kind of foraging, with them, taking them to new areas.
Kitchen scraps.
Yeah.
We did use feed. We did buy feed, especially through the wintertime. And feed is expensive. But when I started growing mushrooms and I was like, I had grain spawn or something like that would go bad, I would feed that to the chickens. I never gave them any sort of grit or anything. I just let them find their own grit naturally. They did just fine. The geese were the biggest problem because they kept roaming over to the neighbor's yard, and the neighbor 2 doors down from us at that time ran a gun store, and the geese would go down there on his front porch and crap all over it. So, so that's how we fed them. Really, I mean, the logs method was probably the best method I think that we ever found. Was just putting logs out in the yard and then kicking them over and letting the chickens just go crazy on it.
We'd also let our grass grow high,
and
then...
That probably also pissed off the neighbors. But yeah, if grass gets, about 8-9 inches high, some of that low-level grass starts putting on seed heads, and the chickens love those seed heads.
Plus it hides, it hides grasshoppers, it hides...
That's true. We would mow like half the yard, and all the grasshoppers would start flying everywhere, and chickens would start running around like crazy.
Yep.
So, let's see. We do have to close it down pretty soon, guys. So let's see. Penny pack. What are you saying? Sad thing is, it's if you have any money. I must be. Because here's the thing about the prosperity mindset. If that's what you're talking about, it can't matter how much money you have. If you have a penny in the bank or negative $3,000, it is harder to get out from underneath that $3,000 with a scarcity mindset than it is a prosperity mindset. You must invest in yourself. And that's part of like the Return of the Barbarian that Venkatesh Rao talks about in Ribbon Farm, Return of the Barbarian article, is that barbarians have that mindset because they invest in themselves. They don't accumulate wealth. They don't accumulate things for the sake of accumulating things so that they can work harder to accumulate more things so that they can work harder to accumulate more things. A barbarian values his time, her time, and invest in themselves, their education, their abilities, because they know that anywhere they land, they can make stuff.
On rapid iteration of
ideas, and
yeah.
They stay mobile, stay light. That's what we try to do as an op. That's one of the reasons why I don't invest in huge, heavy autoclaves. That's one of the reasons why I don't invest in huge permanent structures. That's one of the reasons why we rent. It's one of the reasons why we do a lot of the things that we do. Is that if I had to, I could pick up and move and go somewhere else. But it's also that my infrastructure has paid itself off like basically the first time we ever ran it. And most of where my money goes is payroll. And I'm able to attract a hell of a team. Like, I like my team right now, especially the way things are going, like far more than any other mushroom person's team that I've ever met. Which may just
wow.
I'm just saying, I got the best team. And part of that is,
I think everyone probably feels partial to their own team, though.
Well, and I would rather invest in people and gathering people around me that I really like. You know, it's one of the reasons why we pay attention so much to, will somebody fit into the culture here? Because we want to invest in ourselves and the culture more than the things that are around us. So, what else you got for me, baby? We got like 2 minutes.
How's the warehouse operation going?
Fantastic. Who's that from?
John Forearm?
I don't know. I saw Dune 1000's in here, and he said that he loves us because he shall bend like the reed in the wind.
Yeah.
Like that. I can't catch the entire chat, which is why Samantha is so nice to help me out with stuff. But
and it kind of we were listening to a lot of news this morning, and we were kind of asking the kids how they were feeling about everything, and just as a family, you're always trying to make sure you keep up morale, and you comfort each other that it'll be okay. We'll make it through this. But also being realistic, and it's worth fighting the good fight kind of thing. And it's just something that was kind of on our hearts, and we've been sort of pivoting things at the warehouse. Speaking of how operations are going to kind of accommodate potentials and. Just keeping that forward thinking and that non-scarcity mindset, that prosperity mindset going. And we just wanted to talk to you guys and make sure that you're not alone. We're sharing pretty much everything that we're doing. And so don't get discouraged. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%. I mean, and that's really the big thing. I think whoever brought up the prosperity mindset, I think that was Matthew. I think it was Matthew Jacob or something like that. The fifth. I remember the fifth part. I really like that you brought that up because that may be the best takeaway to take from this is that your mindset through catastrophe is going to be so very important. Speaking of, Venkatesh Rao has another great article on Ribbon Farm called Mediocre. And it's about organisms that survive catastrophes, are not organisms that are highly specialized to their environment, but the most mediocre of mediocre organisms. It's a great one. Go read that and see now why I'm branching out in every direction instead of highly specializing.
What's it called? Oh gosh, brain fart.
Well, that is what that is called.
Jack of all trades, but master of none.
Basically, yeah. Well, and he talks about like fat reserves, like not just like having fat reserves, but like the wings in the beginning of flight for animals, right? Wings were not all that great, and there weren't pressures put on to really encourage flight until a catastrophe happened. And then these creatures who had these stupid little flipper-like wing things that couldn't hardly do anything with them, all of a sudden became very important. But it's because they were mediocre wings that led to flight. That kind of stuff. I really like that stuff. Generalists survive, specialists die off. Absolutely. All right. Well, it is now 4:31, so I suggest that we end this. I actually really enjoyed this conversation, more than I thought I would. So thank you guys for making that a possibility. We've got a video coming out tonight. I think we've got a video coming out Friday. We have our patrons-only live stream Monday nights, which I think are now changing to Discord chats.
We're wanting people to jump more on Discord so that they have, we have a chance to actually see each other's faces and have kind of more authentically situated
when I don't have the delay of the chat and everything else.
Exactly, yeah.
So for those of you guys who are in Discord already and on the Patreon, we're going to do those chats on Monday evening. And from my home. It's very informal. I often, I'm getting ready for bed or smoking a cigar. Last night I started which may not be the best thing in the world for me, but, especially if you want to keep your health up during a pandemic or catastrophe. But by the way, plug spawn from the video the other day of where we inoculated plug spawn.
It was here on the desk?
No, it was a video. The video that I did on not the live stream.
Oh, okay.
I'm in search of logs right now. As soon as I have those, I'll have a mushroom growing video from home of how to make mushroom logs and grow mushrooms at home. Which is honestly my favorite way to grow shiitake as a small to medium-sized grower. But, oh, cool. Dimitri, or Yggdrasil, said that he's been working on the grow room while listening to us. I think that's a great use of the time. Well, cool, y'all. I really don't have anything else. You? Mm-mm. No? Well, in that case... I
have a lot, but just not,
right.
Condensed down in a small amount of time.
Well, in that case, y'all, keep spawning culture. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
It won't stop. We're still on.
It won't stop.
It won't stop.